Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another malicious compliance Reddit video. In our first story, well, this is Red Lobster, and we do things the Red Lobster way. Let's jump right in. This happened several years ago, and I am forever relieved I don't work in a restaurant anymore. Solidarity to all kitchen workers for the endless BS you have to deal with. At the time, I was working in the kitchen as an assembler. This can be one of the most clutch positions on the line, as you take all the food being prepared by the other cooks and organize it into tickets that can be taken out into the dining room. Accordingly, it is often a bottleneck for food leaving the kitchen. If you have a slow assembler, cooked food dies under the heating lamp. Grilled salmon dries out, fries become soggy, linguine alfredo hardens into concrete, really horrific stuff. It is imperative that food not sit in the window. I was working a weekday lunch shift, which is normally pretty slow. We must have provoked the wrath of the restaurant gods on this day though, because out of nowhere, the store got hit with a tsunami of customers. I could just barely make out the other cooks through the clouds of shrimp scampi, fryer grease, and cheddar bay biscuits flying through the air. I knew the crap blizzard was heading my direction and began putting empty plates up in the window with the shape of each ticket that was to leave the kitchen, a technique I had learned to help survive BS like this. On the other side of the window, coordinating the servers, was my manager, Jerkface. Couldn't use his real name actually, let's call him Bob instead. Bob was hyperactive and had an irritating tendency to micromanage kitchen processes, a problem compounded by his not knowing how the flip to run a kitchen. When I began putting empty plates in the window so that the incoming interstellar-sized wave of seafood had something to land on, he stopped me. "What are you doing?" Bob asked. "I'm putting the plates and their sides in the window because we're about to have a very high volume of food coming through," I replied. "Well, this is Red Lobster, and here we do things the Red Lobster way. We plate the food when the food is ready, and we don't put sides on early." I tried explaining that the Red Lobster way was designed by sentient suits and ties physically incapable of holding a spatula, that our sacred way, as dictated in the Good Book of Employee Training, had died in the trenches of last year's Endless Shrimp Special. That while I appreciated the job, I wasn't prepared for an honorable death at the hands of this rush in order to uphold its most obscure tenets. But he wasn't having any of it. Bob insisted that I take the plates out of the window and only pass him plates and tickets that were 100% completed. Knowing full well that Bob was flying us by the book into a storm of crap, I put on a feces-resistant raincoat, rubbed some Vicks under my nose, and braced for impact. 30 minutes later, the window was chaos. Finished food was left dying in the wings of the window, while I, swiftly enough to avoid reprimand, but with the fatalistic mechanical movement of a flood pump removing water at a fraction of the rate at which it's arriving, plated up one finished ticket at a time. Like a toddler whose toy was suddenly taken away, Bob was equal parts confused and furious. "What's this food waiting on?" he cried, gesturing towards a shriveled up steak and its associated sides. "Well, that order is waiting on some fried shrimp, and I need to wait for the ticket to be complete before I plate it up." "Why is the ticket missing fried shrimp?" "Unfortunately, I'm not manning the fryer, sir, so I don't know the answer to that question." This continued for the better part of an hour. After the rush had passed and I was dumping its precipitated liquid crap from my galoshes, Bob approached me with the twitchy, nervous energy of a boxer who has done a bump to mount a comeback in the final round. Or a hyper-caffeinated, insecure manager who needed to assert his dominance over the underpaid crew of some bunk seafood restaurant. "Can I, speak to you in the walk-in for a moment, you/Namesroo?" "Sure thing." We walked to the cooler as I struggled to remember how to fight off an attacker armed with a kitchen knife from my days in the dish pit. "So, "What happened back there?" Bob asked, arms folded, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. "You said we should follow the system, and we did," I replied, mentally noting that he was standing in front of the walk-ins only exit. "But there were a lot of missed items on those tickets. We had food dying in the window." "I saw it. Yeah, it was pretty bad." "So? Why was the food missing?" "I don't know. I wasn't cooking the food. I was assembling it. I am the assembler." This line of questioning continued, with Bob trying to somehow pin the catastrophe of the last hour on my willingness to comply with his orders, while I blithely insisted that I did exactly what was asked of me. After not being able to move past this point for several minutes, Bob made some sweeping statement about doing better next time and left. Incidentally, the next time I was assembling and Bob was on the other side of the window, nothing was said about the Red Lobster Way, and the rush went smoother, albeit with some hotter plates and servers having to return for delayed items. I guess we ended up doing better after all. Story number 2. You want a poster design. I thought some of you may enjoy this story. It happened to me, as friends seem to find it funny. I was handed a brief that said to design an A4 poster, health. It was to include an image and title and text that the client would provide later. A week goes by and I get a snarky message phone call from the client that as he has heard nothing from me, he was coming into the office. He turned up to our small office that had 8 to 10 people in it, no privacy, asking where the errant designer was. My hackles rise. He then had some comment about he didn't realize I was a woman, and now he is not surprised he has heard nothing, as we women are forgetful. My hackles continue to be electrified. Now, he still hasn't supplied the title, text, or image. He turns to me and said something along the lines of, "Come on then, knock my socks off. What have you got for me?" So off I go to the printer around a corner, thinking, I'll bloody give you something. Come right back, and I flourished him a piece of blank A4. He looks at me puzzled, so I put on my best barmaid smile. I ran a pub for a while too, thank heavens for the practice, pointing to different parts of the paper as if explaining a poster. I tell him, this is where the image will be, and say, imagine that the title would be up here, and say that when my client supplies the text, he was the client, I would know better what font size I would need to use, as at the moment, the client hadn't supplied the text, so I didn't know if it would be something like, beware, or a paragraph of text explaining a medical condition. I also explained that there may not be a hard copy such as he was holding, as I had also not been informed of whether it would be for the web or posted around corridors. I said, if it was likely to be a poster, it would be in portrait, and if it was to be a PDF, then to visualize it being made in this format, and took the piece of paper and handed it straight back in landscape. He went quiet, just sat looking at this piece of paper and looking. Then his body started this odd tremor, shake, and he just started roaring with laughter. I think it was touch and go for a moment. I got a bottle of something nice for that. For your information, the studio did everything from poster design, training manuals to 3D models, visualizations, and videos. This is John from /Bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to be the first to know when the next one drops, then subscribe and click on that notifications bell. I'd love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and I'll see you in the next one.